What's
What's
up,
going
Manny?
on? What's going on?
Not much, man. Glad you're here this evening with us, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
I'm excited to do it.
yeah. So that's your end. We can go ahead and get things started.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
All right. So hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this is gonna be episode 107 for you guys today. Today, I'm joined by my guest, the host from the well, first off, I should say, coming all the way from Chicago, Manny Wilson, the host from the Run Podcast. A few weeks ago, Manny had me as a guest on the Run Podcast, so I thought I'd deliver the favor for you guys today and bring Manny on. So thank you again, Manny, for letting me come on your show, and thanks again for hopping on my show today.
Of course, man. Of course.
So I got to get your thoughts, man. Some crazy things going on in the NBA right now. What are your thoughts on the Phoenix Suns getting Bradley Beal in yesterday's big-time trade?
Man, this was huge. Immediately, though, I was happy for Bradley Beal first off because I'm like, dude been over there suffering for the last several years over in D.C. They ain't got him no help. He ain't been able to win ever since pretty much John Wall went down with that injury that changed his career. Has pretty much been a different story in Washington as we know it. So, first off, I'm happy for Bradley Beal that he's in a new area. Second, when we talk about contenders, I still don't think the Phoenix Suns have enough to get over the hump. And I know that sounds crazy because it's like it's Bradley Beal. This is a guy who can give you 50, 40 any given night. So I understand why it can sound so crazy that I still don't think the Phoenix Suns are contenders, especially when you add them with KD, you add them with Devin Booker, and then they still got Aiden right now, which I think he's going to leave at some point. But ultimately, I say they don't have enough because they ain't got no bench, man. It's still the same problem. So they run into one of these teams that's stacked like a Denver Nuggets like we see. They run into a Los Angeles Lakers team that got a little more or that get a little bit better, whatever the case may be. Or they run into another solid team in the West like the Warriors that have an actual bench. To me, they're not going to be able to beat them in 7 games. Like, they'll be able to win a game. They're going to look good in the regular season. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to a 7-game series, they ain't got enough. They ain't got enough. That's a lot of mileage you putting on KD, Brad Beal, and D Book, and I just don't think at the end of the day it'll be enough. Nope.
Yeah, you hit it right on, man. Because first I'll address the Bradley Beal going to the Suns. In terms of contending, I don't think that I agree with you, man. A lot of people I was talking to about it yesterday were saying like the Suns can win the championship next year. I'm saying I don't really get it how they can win a championship because, like you said, you line them up against the Denver Nuggets in a 7-game series. I think next year the same thing happens. It can't just be Booker or KD or now Bradley Beal in there delivering. You need a bench. That's always one of the recipes to winning a championship is having a good bench.
Yep.
Having a good big man that could get it done. Like we talked about on your show, Ayton was getting dominated and destroyed by Jokic in the playoffs. And if they trade him, they get some depth, some bench players or players that can play defense. I still don't see them knocking off a team like the Nuggets or the Lakers out in the West next year. Or if they even get that, I think teams like Miami or the Celtics or the Bucks could give them problems in the East as well next year. So I agree with you. I don't think this is enough for the Suns to win it all next year as well.
I think with the next step from what they have to do, and actually this is content that I'm going to be saying on this episode of The Run, is Ayton. I think Ayton has to go, man. Like, he's a great player. He got a lot of value right now to that team. But I think ultimately the Phoenix Suns can possibly flip something to getting a solid supporting cast if they get rid of Ayton. I mean, I ain't saying, you got to pick up a bunch of great guys to fill in what you lost when you first got KD, but ultimately just grabbing somebody to help the Phoenix Suns bench and supporting cast. So if that's 2 players for one, if that's 3 players and for 1 player in a pick, they got to be able to make that move because honestly, you're not even gonna need Ayton to score the ball with KD, Beal, and D Book. He's not gonna any touches like how he was before KD got there. So he can kiss that goodbye. So, I mean, I'm like, send him somewhere else to a team that may be a contender or not, wherever, it don't matter, but get something solid in return. That way you will be solid. That way you can have a supporting cast. You can have some other guys outside of the three main stars that's on that team. So that's what I think is the next move, or the move that should be next for the Phoenix Suns. After that, that's what needs to happen for them to become contenders.
Yeah, I agree with you too, because now that I think about it, like you said, Aiden is really the only other option they can get in order to get more pieces, because
Yeah.
Caps, you just took on Bradley Beal's. He has one of the biggest contracts in the NBA right now, $250 million. KD's got a big contract. Booker's got a big contract. And you traded away all your first round picks to get KD, all your young talented players to get KD. Now, if you plan to get on any more pieces, you got to give up Aiden. And like you said, the way how you have three scores now, there's really no need for Ayton there besides rebounding or being a threat defensively in the paint. I don't really see why Ayton's there. So I agree with you on that. It's just so tough because, like, I'm looking at them three. Everybody's saying championship, championship, championship. But you know what the three of them remind me of? I hate to say it's so early, but I feel like it's going to be like a Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Harden situation in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Talent, all that scoring talent, but there's nobody that's going to be committed to being a two-way player. They don't. I don't see who. A lot of people are saying Booker can run the point guard. I don't see that. He's a guy that loves to shoot the ball more than anything.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. And you know, as Eric Spoelstra said, that's just the untrained eye. That's just the untrained eye right there. To be able to say something like that, man. We've seen these big threes come together, and I've witnessed so much great basketball and so many different teams that were constructed in a great way. I can tell you right now, the Phoenix Suns, they're not constructed in a way that's gonna dominate the league this next few seasons. It's just not the way it's put together, bro. They got a great core. And I understand that. But we've seen so many different teams with a great core that did not do anything through that season. Like you just mentioned, Kyrie, Harden, KD didn't do anything. When we even go further back, like to further generations, when Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, and Olajuwon played on the same team in Houston, they didn't do anything. Like we've seen teams mesh up a bunch of guys on one team, but ultimately it has to work. It has to be some sort of chemistry. It has to be some sort of unit bringing these guys together. And with the Suns, I just see people being like, all right, let me get this guy. Let me get this guy. Let's bring this guy. And then it's like, all right, you got three people who's good, but okay, who do you have outside of those guys?
Yeah.
And it's nobody. So
yeah, I agree with everything you just said, because when you think about it, KD is what? 34 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way he's scoring and playing, you already see that mileage starting to catch up on his body. He's injured here and there, and so when you think about it, I think the championship window for them is already. I think I'm giving it 2 years. If it don't work out in 2 years, you're really screwed at that point, because what can you really do with all three of these guys? Booker is going to be in his prime for a while, but as we see Bradley Beal as well, this is a guy that has missed time here and there as well. And then I don't understand, like you said, chemistry. Just because big names form together, I just got to see how it's going to work, because Bradley Beal, even though he was only putting up around 20 points per game last year before the injury, he was the number one option with the Wizards. Now he has to adjust to being really the number 3 option with the Suns. That takes a lot. And Kevin Durant knows how to flip it here and there, because he played with Curry and Thompson with the Warriors, so that really wasn't a big deal for him. But someone like Bradley Beal, yeah, he can contribute, but is he really going to be okay with being the 3rd option? I just got to see it to believe it.
So when it comes to the options, I'm not too worried about the options in terms of who will be first, who will be second option, 3rd option, especially because Kevin Durant is probably one of the easiest players to assimilate in any type of game plan, just because he's unselfish. He can score off the ball. He can score on the ball. He can score ISO. He can get rebounds. And like he has so many different aspects to his game where he doesn't necessarily need to score the ball to be effective. While when he is scoring, it is extremely effective. But he's not a guy where it's like I have to get my 20 points in order to be happy. He's a guy who's, I'm just trying to win. I'm just here to hoop. Like, if it's an open shot, I'm going to take it. And because of that type of mentality that he brings, I feel like it'll still be okay where everyone will be happy with the touches they're getting. Like, we got to remember, KD was a guy play with Steph and Klay Thompson who's shooting the rock almost every time. And he, bro, as great and as talented as that team was, he easily adjusted to, being able to play a game like free flowing and still making the system work around Steph Curry. So to me, I'm like, I don't think it'll be a problem with Bradley Beal getting the touches. It's more so of like who else is going to be there to help those guys when they're not doing the scoring. Because, I mean, truth be told, that's why D-Book, KD, and Bradley Beal are there to score the ball. They're going to play defense, obviously. But the guys that do the dirty work, those guys that's going to get down and dirty, the guys that's going to fight for loose balls, the guys that's going to get in foul trouble, who going to take them hard fouls, who going to take charges, like just the small little, the tiny things, like the guy you put in when KD is in foul trouble, the guy you put in when Brad Beal is in foul trouble. Like, they don't have none of those guys. Like,
Yeah, you're right about that.
they don't have none of those guys. Like, the guy you're trying to put in to guard a Jokic to get him stopped when KD is in foul trouble. Like, they have, out of all the situations in basketball that happens throughout the game, they just don't have answers for so many different game situations. And that's what's going to hurt them in the long run, and especially during the 7-game series. Because we might not see it during the regular season, but we'll damn sure see it in the 7-game series for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like all the points you said because I know when they're going to get going in the regular season, but the playoffs is what matters most. That's when your legacy is defined. Like you said, game series is where you really find out how good of a team they really are in a 7-game series. So, everything you said, I agree with everything you said. It's just going to be tough. They just don't have those key things to win a championship with, like you said, game scenarios.
Yeah.
Somebody, big man like Jokic in foul trouble. They just don't have that. So I think the world is going to love it for now, but come playoff time, around this time next year, we'll be saying, what went wrong with the Suns, or why have they not won a champion? Why did they not win a championship with those 3 caliber players?
Facts. They're gonna be getting that episode too. Out of all the hype that's going on, everybody gonna be getting that same episode of where did the Phoenix Suns go wrong? And it's gonna be the same answer. It's gonna be the same answer. They ain't got no bench. They ain't got no help.
So what you think, man? I'm asking you 2 more questions before we move on. But do you think that the Bradley Beal trade, what do you think about that? Do you think it was a right trade? Because it only took Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and several second-round picks that are going to turn into swaps. Do you think that was enough, a fair trade to get Bradley Beal? Or
I mean, it's fair to the extent of the Wizards are giving up literally a guy who's held down their franchise for I don't know how long, for a great amount of time.
Yeah.
As far as the Wizards, this is good for them because, I mean, they're not going to win without Bradley Beal, or they're not going to win anytime soon with Bradley Beal. They're not going to win anytime without Bradley Beal soon. So this is good for them to accumulate some of those picks to get a Landry Shamet, who's a pretty solid player. Still trying to, make sure he has a place in this league pretty much. So I think for the Wizards, this is a great trade for them. Everybody's talking about how much the Suns benefit from this trade, but truthfully, I mean, Wizards benefit just as good because they're going in the direction of rebuilding, and now they got some picks there. They got another young guy there. When in reality, all the Suns did was they brought another megastar, which is huge, but they even decreased their bench by more because Shamet was another guy who could come off the bench and give you 11 points on occasion. So now it's really rough. So I mean, I think it was a fair trade for sure, but ultimately, it almost hurts one team more than it helps the other team. And that team is being the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in this situation, because Bradley Beal had the no trade clause, basically, if they were going to trade him, he had to say which team he wanted to go to. So I think when you're in that situation, you can get anything, just get anything basically, because they're not going to have Chris. I think they're going to reroute him to a different team. I don't think he's going to be long, but like you said, Landry Shamet is a good bench player. Several second-round picks for the rebuild. So, and they got the $250 million contract off of their books. So,
Yep.
I think,
Free up some space.
yeah,
Free up some space.
get it. So I think, like you said, like we talked about, if Bradley Beal if they can't deliver a championship, they're screwed. They have no first-round picks, no second-round picks to look forward to in the future. So I think the Wizards could win this trade if the Suns don't win a championship when it's all said and done.
Let's just go ahead and say this right now. The Wizards won this trade. Winning no championship. Let's just get that out of the way right now. No championship. So Wizards won that trade. Freed up cap space, got some picks. Man, give it 4 years from now. The Devin Booker's gonna be leaving Phoenix. And I think the Phoenix Suns are going to end up damn near how the Charlotte Hornets is looking and how my Detroit Pistons was looking over the last 7 years. They're going to be looking horrible because they're taking some serious gambles here, and there's just not enough on the return of the gambles that they're taking because they're still missing so many different pieces that can help them win the championship. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just say that. Wizards won the trade. Even though it's a great benefit for the Suns, we're gonna say Wizards won.
Yeah, for sure. Final question before we move on to the next segment. But do you think that Bradley Beal made the right decision going to the Phoenix Suns? Because there were teams like the Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks, even the Sacramento Kings that wanted him. Do you think he made the right decision waiving his no trade clause to the Suns compared to those other three teams?
No, no. I don't think he made the right team. I understand wanting to go play with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker over there, but ultimately, again, that team does not have enough. When you go play with the Miami Heat, or if you choose to go play with the Miami Heat, that's they would have gave up some pieces. From what I've seen, Tyler Hero would have been gone.
Yeah.
And from what I can imagine, that has not been in the reports yet. I'm sure Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, I'm sure out of those three guys, at least two of them were out of there. But even then, Heat culture is something like it's bigger than just the players. To me, it's like when you go there, everybody's playing for each other. It's unity. It's chemistry. Immediately, everybody's trying to win. They're playing hard. And to me, it works because Jimmy Butler, who's a great player, almost plays as a facilitator a lot of time. Through the playoffs, we've seen him become a little passive in certain situations, relying on his teammates to hold up the scoring total. And while that's great, if you add Bradley Beal to a situation like that, it gives him a lot of opportunity to do what he enjoys, which is scoring the ball. And it doesn't take away from Jimmy Butler at all because he's still facilitating something he enjoys to do. While he can still get a bucket, his natural instinct is to facilitate and create for others and share the sugar because that's just the kind of person he is. So to me, I would have loved to see Bradley Beal in Miami with Heat culture. But, I mean, hey, he picked Phoenix. It could have been worse. He could have picked a different team that, just in another city he liked. But, hey, he picked Phoenix, so I wish the best for him. And, again, overall, man, I'm just happy for him that he's finally out of Washington. Because, man, he ain't never getting the respect he deserved out there in Washington. So,
yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the best fit would have been the Miami Heat. I thought he was a sure lock to go to the Miami Heat this offseason. Because it's been years in the making. I thought we were going to get him last year after we went on a deep playoff run, but that didn't happen. But, yeah, I definitely think he picked the wrong team. I think he could definitely, like you said, the Heat is a winning culture.
yeah.
Something that Pat Riley has built, something that Eric Spoelstra has built over the years. You already have basically everything needed to win a championship with the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler there.
Yeah.
That's not afraid of getting his teammates involved by any means. Bam Adebayo and Bradley Beal are really good friends as well. So, yeah, I really think that he could have benefited with the Heat or even playing alongside Giannis in Milwaukee. I think that could have been a good set of teammates he would have had with him, Giannis, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton if he stays, Brook Lopez if he stays. But I think he would have had a higher chance competing in the East, trying to get a championship with those teams over joining the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, but like you said, it's good for him to be out of DC because I don't know, you can be only loyal for so long.
Yeah.
And I don't care how much money you're making. If you want to win a championship, he knew dang right well when he put pen to paper last year, you not win no championship there. So